Soulsbourne is a genre of video games. It usually includes combat features such as limited stamina that depletes when you dodge, attack, or block, etc., limited heals that only replenish after dying, or a system of checkpoints where you can level up and do other things like stocking inventory and learning spells. You usually respawn at them when you die as well. And currency used for leveling up as well as buying stuff that you lose when you die. Other non-gameplay trends that run through this genre are convoluted lore that requires you to do some digging and reading and figure out, and a dark, grim fantasy setting. From Software is a Japanese game company that was founded November 1st, 1986. They would create many games in the pre-Souls era. However, the most important was the Kingsfield series, a dungeon-crawling fantasy game with slow, very methodical combat, a dark atmosphere, though with the shaders at the time it wasn't always apparent, a stamina bar, and some extremely atmospheric music. No, it's not a Soulsbourne, but it is important because it would be the progenitor for the first Soulsbourne game. The first Souls game, the father of Dark Souls. Demon Souls. Demon Souls was once a small side project, nothing but a failsafe in case their other game failed. But against all odds, it was very successful. Due to its innovative combat and well put together atmosphere, it sold 1.4 million copies and received critical acclaim. So, From Software immediately began to create a sequel. Oh, and by the way, the other game From Software thought would do well? Well, it was hot garbage, further cementing Demon Souls' success as a success, as it was not overshadowed and actually saved the company from a massive loss. After the success of Demon Souls, From Software capitalized hard. They started development of their next game in 2009, the very same year Demon Souls released. It was originally going to be a sequel to Demon Souls, however Sony's ownership of the Demon Souls IP would prevent the sequel from releasing on consoles other than the PlayStation 3. They decided to not make a sequel to Demon Souls because of that. And thus, Dark Souls was born. Bearing the title of Souls and the responsibility it came with, Dark Souls was expected to live up to the standards that Demon Souls set. And it went above and beyond. It sold 2.37 million copies in 18 months and garnered far more praise. Its world building and storytelling was amazing, and it's still well worth playing today. In fact, people still do. Now, with all that, how would Dark Souls 2, the sequel, hold up? Well, as you can probably guess by it getting 2.5 million copies sold, and even more than Dark Souls 1, it was actually not that good. I won't go too deep into it, but it added a mechanic called adaptability, which dictated how well you could dodge, a core mechanic of the game, which meant you had to level up a stat that was completely disconnected from the rest of your build and removed build complexity because the armor you wore no longer dictated how well you could roll. It also was almost completely disconnected lore-wise from Dark Souls 1, so all the lore buffs didn't get the same satisfaction with the lore. Moving on, Dark Souls 3. It sold 10 million copies, and it's still considered one of the best Souls games made by FromSoft. It removed all the bad features from Dark Souls 2 and improved on Dark Souls 1's mechanics. It also returned to being set in the same place as Dark Souls 1, just a few hundred years in the future, which allowed for a lot of small Easter eggs to be found by lore fanatics. However, it still maintained the ability to have separate locations and an overall mostly disconnected yet still very similar story. It also reminded players that yes, time passes in this land, which is a core theme of the Dark Souls franchise. Spin-off games. I won't linger on the FromSoft spin-off games too long, as they're mostly just interesting variants on the Soulsbourne formula. The first is Bloodborne. It's like Dark Souls, but set in a massive gothic city, has guns, and is about eldritch horror and like gods and blood and stuff. So yeah. The second is Sekiro, which is like Dark Souls, but a lot faster, set in like fantasy Japan, and a lot more focused on parrying and using abilities and being aggressive, as opposed to Dark Souls, which is slower and about dodging and blocking. So, yeah, those are the spin-offs. The culmination of everything From Software did with the Soulsbourne genre, the last Souls game. It's very similar to Dark Souls 3, however, there is one big difference. It's open world. Yeah, you heard me right. They literally added like double the content, and it's all optional, and it's really cool. They also changed a few things to bring over features from their spin-off games and Demon Souls and Dark Souls and generally other stuff, which creates a very unique and well-balanced game with tons of room to create a unique character build and with a unique playstyle. Another change made with Elden Ring is the difficulty. Traditionally, the Souls series have been notoriously difficult. However, with Elden Ring, they added a few features to make the game more accessible for casual gamers. The first is the fact that the game is open world to begin with. This allows you to straight up just skip a lot of bosses so that you can level up and develop your build before coming back and beating them later. The other is spirit summoning, which is a system that allows you to just summon upgradable NPCs to fight bosses with you. The good thing about this is that they're both completely optional. You don't have to use those features. You don't have to skip bosses. And they don't add an easy mode. So everyone still has an equal experience and challenge. It's just you have the option to make it easier by using tools given to you. Unfortunately, Elden Ring is the last Soulsbourne game From Software will make for the foreseeable future. This is because they want to go back to making more diverse games and a more diverse selection of genres. At the end of the day, From Software really did create an extremely influential bunch of games. They changed the way people looked at difficulty in video games and brought people together to celebrate these games that will surely go down in history. So, what now? Is it over? From Software isn't making any more Soulsbourne games, so I guess we'll just have to enjoy what we have. Hold on. We're not done yet. I did call it a genre, didn't I? Well, that's where independent developers come in. They're still making Soulsbourne games, like Lies of P, a Soulsbourne game inspired by Bloodborne and based on the tale of Pinocchio. Really weird, I know. Or Mortal Shell, a game I don't know anything about, but I've heard it's good. So, if you've ever thought about playing a Soulsbourne game, like Dark Souls, I highly recommend you go and play one. It truly is something. Finally, just, whatever you do, don't go hollow.